It's the third annual month of British rock on KPOI 105.9, The Big Kahuna, Honolulu's only classic rock, the Workforce Afternoon, and Dave Lawrence with you. A big mahalo for being on board, and today we get a chance to speak with a legendary person whose name will forever be attached to the very core of what high-quality music is about, the spirit of rock and roll. He's a member of rock's British royalty and an inspiration to musicians worldwide because of his passion for music. You've been hearing his current classic cover of Taxman from the new Just for a Thrill CD from the Rhythm Kings. Joining me now to discuss that and much more is Rolling Stones legend, author, historian, songwriter, and incredibly talented bassist and musician extraordinaire, Bill Wyman. Aloha, Bill.
Hi, The Big Kahuna. My wife says that's a Gidget film.
Is how would she say it?
I don't know what she's talking about.
Gidget, the famous
The Big
60s
Kahuna.
films, yeah.
Is it?
It's famous 60s films that were made by this actress. I forget her name off the top of my head, but your wife's correct.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, she's from California. She would know that.
Ah, tell her aloha from me.
She says aloha. Dave what?
Lawrence, Lawrence.
Oh, yeah, very English.
Yes.
That's a big announcement.
You're worthy of it. A big mahalo for being available.
I'm only a bass player, you know.
It's been really great to have this new Bill Wyman's Rhythm Kings record, Just for a Thrill, and there's so much on it. We've been enjoying Taxman and Disappearing Nightly a great deal.
Yeah.
And whenever I hear Taxman, it makes me ponder how far back your relationship with George Harrison must have went for you to include this as a tribute.
Yeah, of course. We met the Beatles before we ever made a record. They came to see us in a club in London and gave us some encouragement. We spent the night with, they hung out all night with us and we talked music and stuff, and then we became friends and remained friends to the present day, actually. And on the previous Rhythm King CD, I asked George to play on a track for me, to do an overdub, and he was very, very sweet and very nice. He said, but you got two of the best guitarists in the world in your band, Albert Lee and Martin Taylor, the jazz guitarist. And,
Yeah.
Why do you want me on the album? And so I said, but George, I want your sound. He said, but I only do one song. I can only do one note. He's so humble, And I said, George, that's the note we want. So he said, yeah, of course I'll do it. And he was halfway through his own album, so I sent the tapes over, and he did a nice job on them. And then he wrote me a lovely letter back, which I treasure. And so after he moved on, passed away, I thought I'd do a tribute to him. So I decided to do a tribute to him of my favourite track of his, which is Taxman, but do it more in an R&B feel with horns and all that sort of thing, rather than the sort of stiff, hard rock and roll versions that people have done of it.
It's very soulful, your version.
Well, exactly. That was why I tried to do it in a different way and use a girl singing it. Her and myself did it, actually. Beverly Skeet and myself.
Yeah.
Just for a difference.
And I like the way it has that funky sort of groove. It's very reminiscent of 70s funk. And I just want to comment on something else. You point out that George Harrison is the way you describe him is incredibly humble, and he sounds like a very down-to-earth guy. I mean, that's sort of, you must have had that in common. Was he the Beatle you gravitated to most closely?
Very much so, yeah. In fact, we both got confused with each other, particularly in the 70s, early 80s. Fans used to confuse us. We were confused by photos in the newspapers or magazines and things. I'd look at a photo of him and think it was me, when he was unshaven, and vice versa. And once I went to New York and got out of a limousine outside the Gotham Hotel and by the park there, and there was a whole mass of fans jumped on me with all these albums and asked me to sign them as I was going in. So I started to sign them, and I realised they were all Beatles albums, and they all thought I was George. So yeah, maybe we did, and we were probably the two quiet ones of our bands,
right? The quiet ones, the humble and really gracious ones. That's cool.
But a lot of the big names are very, very humble and quite like Mark Knopfler is, Eric is, Eric Clapton and people like that. They're all very laid back and reserved and a bit shy and a bit insecure in a way, Charlie Watts is.
You mentioned Mark Knopfler, the Disappearing Nightly track.
Yeah.
A fantastic riff in that. The whole thing is another. I mean, in that tune, when I hear that, I wonder, did you intend when you first realized that was going to be cut and part of the Just for a Thrill record? Did you intend to have Mark Knopfler on that?
I had Mark sort of pinpointed for 2 tracks on it actually. When I got in touch with him, he was working on his own album. He says, "I'll do one." So I said, "Which one do you want to do?" And he chose this particular one. The other one I wanted him to do was the song I sang, Town Living, which is a sort of a country flavour, Dylan-ish sort of thing that I wrote. And he liked Disappearing Nightly very much, and it suited him perfectly, and he did a really nice job on it. Once again, he lives around the corner, so I just gave him a call, because his child goes to school with my children in the same school, so we see each other quite regularly. And I just asked him if he'd like to play on it, and he did a delightful job on it.
So you're telling me there's like PTA meetings and stuff, Bill, and other parents have the great pleasure of looking around and seeing like Mark Knopfler and Bill Wyman there?
Well, yeah, and Charlie Watts' granddaughter goes to the same school as well. It's great. And there's a few other people that you would know that have children at this particular school in London.
Okay, no, I have no doubt. You have a mean circle of friends, Bill Wyman. Do you choose songs, Bill, that are lesser known sometimes to cover because you want to pay tribute to the artist, or to?
Absolutely. And if I choose a very famous artist, I don't go for his big hits. I go for much lesser songs that are. If I did a Wilson Pickett thing, for instance, I wouldn't pick In the Midnight Hour or Funky Broadway or any of those sort of things. I'd pick something much more obscure that I like, which is a bit different. I don't like hitting on the hits that everybody's heard anyway, and 2 or 3 other people have covered in the past. I like to choose a little bit more obscure things, like with Creedence I chose some lesser-known songs and things like that. It's nice. Dr. John, I would choose something much more primitive than I'd do Mama Roo instead of, The Right Place, the Wrong Time, or stuff like that. And with Fats Domino, I'd choose a much lesser song. We've done it with Muddy Waters. We've done it with many other people. There are gems out there that haven't been touched, and they need to be brought forward for a new public.
Are you looking at it as more paying tribute, or is there a role? I see you as like a teacher too, because maybe it was the Blues Odyssey book and CD that got me looking at you in a different sort of way, because I'm a lot younger. I'm just a kid really compared to you, Bill. And when I looked at that book, it changed my entire perception of you, because it took you from a Rolling Stone and a solo artist to someone who was sharing this incredible knowledge of the blues. And so when I look at your new record and I look at the variety of the titles, I wonder. I know you're paying tribute, and I can tell you're really passionate. But are you inspired to teach?
Well, I love archaeology. I love research. I love digging out facts and old information and stuff, and finding little treasures in the past, whatever they might be, whether it's musically, archaeologically, historically. That's why I write a variety of books. And that's kind of what I do musically. I go back and search through old tapes and old records and cassettes I've amassed over the years, and just suddenly I find a gem like Disappearing Nightly, which I didn't even know who did it. I just had it on a cassette, and I thought, wow, Albert Lee could do a great version of this, so could we, and he sang it really well. And then I found out it was by a guy called Spencer Bowery, and I didn't know who it was, and he was Canadian. And I only found that out when we started to check into the publishing rights and things like that. It doesn't matter. You just find these things and you think, there's a track on there called Cadillac Woman, on track 7 on the album.
Yep.
Which is I know Dr. John quite well, and he's told me, and Alan Toussaint and people like that in the past from New Orleans have told me that everybody used to listen to this old piano player called Archibald. They all kind of learned from Fats Domino, Long Hair, everybody. They used to listen to this guy called Archibald. Now, I looked through my archives, and I've got 3 tracks by Archibald, and one of them's this song called Cadillac Woman. And I did it. And it's got a nice little thing about it, and we did a really nice version of it. And it's another thing just to pull out the past that everybody's forgotten about and revive it, and try to try to reproduce the spirit of the original, so you don't lose that. So whenever we record everything in 3 takes maximum. We never go past 3 takes.
So that you maintain the live freshness.
Yeah, and the excitement and the fun of that song, as the original people did. They only did 2 takes of it usually, and we do it take 1 or take 2 or the worst take 3, and then you've got it. And it's got the freshness, it's got the excitement, it's got the mood. We don't go digital, we do all analog.
Nice.
So we get nice warmth about the tracks and everything.
Big fat 2-inch tape.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I used to do
find
that
a few
stuff.
old mics, and
Nice.
and use a nice board that's not too old, and try to, because it gives warmth, it gives air in the tracks, and it's much nicer than digital, which is very hard and black and white, if you know what I mean.
I totally do. I mean, you and I are in some ways cut from the same cloth, because I can just hear your. I mean, you're into it for the music. That's why.
Yeah, that's very important to get the essence. Anyone can copy a song from the past, note for note, instrument by instrument. That's not what I do. You grab the essence of it and you embellish it, and you just present it in a new way, but with the old feel of it, the original feel, and you mustn't lose that. And a lot of people that do cover versions do lose that.
I've noticed that. It seems like there are a couple of directions people take. Either people go with that faithful interpretation of the song that sometimes ends up sounding like a clone of the original, or people do, the way you've done it, and a handful of other artists. I point to Joe Cocker's new record. He has some startling covers on that Heart and Soul album.
Yeah, he's always done great records.
And he did this version of REM's Everybody Hurts, and just because of the way you're talking about it, it sounds the same. It must be, I've never spoken to him, but I can imagine he feels like you do, that it's just, when you make a cover, it would be better to take it to a new place.
Yeah, because if you're going to copy it, why bother? If you copy it note for note and try to get the vocal sound exactly the same, why bother? Live with the original, because it's great.
Bill, what originally drove your decision to make the leaving of the Rolling Stones a reality?
I'd been in the band 31 years, and I was 62. I think it was. It was half my life. And no, I wasn't 62. I was in my 50s. But it was more than half my life I'd been in the band, and it was time to move on and do other things. I had so many other ideas and interests in my life, as I'd always had. You
were the most prolific overall as a solo artist, I realized, as I prepared for this. It seemed, because you were the first Rolling Stone to release a solo record back in '74 with Monkey Grip.
First one to ever hit as well.
Yeah, no, so it's like, it's really, I guess it almost answers itself, because you were the guy who already had a lot of other interests.
Yeah, I was always interested in photography, archaeology, history, many other subjects, and I worked on art books, and I took photos of Chagall, the artist, the wonderful artist. I mixed with artists in the south of France, lots of them, César, Armand, people like that, who were current, and my interests were always very widespread, and music was an important part, but it was only a part of my life, and it was necessary to move on to all those other areas that I could not fulfill by being in the band, because the band took up so much of the time that I didn't have time to do those other things. So it was necessary to leave. So never regretted it, thank God. And I'm still very good friends with the band themselves. In fact, I was recording with Charlie just 10 days ago.
Oh, wow.
Just for fun, with Peter Frampton and Chris Stainton, our piano player, and we did a nice session for Peter and cut 2 tracks for him for his new album.
He's going to have a great record. He's got Pearl Jam on it. Now I hear he's got you on it. I mean, what a diverse record.
I've known Peter since he was 13.
Oh, man.
He used to come knocking on my door as a little boy, asking me if I had any Beatle boots he could borrow, or if he could come and play guitar with me. So I kind of fathered him in the early years, got him on TV at the age of 14. He joined the band. I left to join the Stones, and they became the Herd eventually, and he moved on from there. And so he's always regarded me as a parental figure, I suppose, or a nice uncle or something. He always comes to me if he's doing a new contract or if he's been offered a gig or something and say, do you think this is a good thing to do?
To get advice from you, like a dad.
Yeah, exactly. So he's a great mate, and we spend holidays together sometimes, our families. We get on very well, and so it was nice to do it with him.
Man, you got so
And
many...
Peter was in the Rhythm Kings for the first year as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that, right. And the other thing with the Rhythm Kings that I've noticed is of all the music that you do love, the Rhythm Kings has this R&B and bluesy background that goes really through your life all the way back to to the Stones, because there's an interesting way of looking at your history by way of quotes from other people. And what I mean by that is if people like Jerry Garcia used to say, or guys like Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead would say, they were originally inspired to be a band by the Rolling Stones, who they saw as a British blues band, and they wanted to take that into their own thing. So when you look at your life, Bill, it's from the Rhythm Kings now all the way back really to that period that we're talking about, the early 60s. The blues has had a central role.
Oh, absolutely. It's the root, and it's the music I favor the most. It's the music I play the most at home and have done for years and years and years and collect. That's why I spent 4 years doing the book on the blues and the DVD and the CD. It's a very important part of my life, and it is the root of my music. Whatever my music comes from, that is part of it.
Were you the most hardcore blues fan in the Stones, or was there an equal love?
Well, I think Brian was in the beginning, because I didn't know anything about blues until I joined the band, because there were no records in the stores, and it was never played on the radio, and it just purely came via people coming into England and bringing the odd record that people would have. You know, it wasn't until the Stones and then other bands that followed us, like Yardbirds, Them, the Animals, and bands like that, John Mayall, came out, that the record company started to import blues records as such. So it was a new music to me when I joined the Stones, because I'd never heard it. I was playing R&B and rock and roll in my band. So it was a new music, and ever since then I became fanatical about it. I mean, it just absorbed me totally, and I just searched for records for the next 5 years and built up a really big collection.
You're also a guy who, in addition to having the deep passion for music, you are in a very small group of rock stars who have either food products or restaurants, and I've never really heard much about it, and am fascinated to know a little bit about Sticky Fingers.
Well, lots of American fans and tourists do come to Sticky Fingers, as do people from Japan, Germany, etc., Australia. It's a fast food restaurant based on an American system, really. Ribs, chicken wings, all that kind of thing. Really good health foods, vegetarian foods, burgers, and all that. But it's been successful for 15 years. I have the one in London. I opened one in Manchester and one in Cambridge. This is in England, of course.
Yeah.
Some years ago, but then I got fed up and keep running backwards and forwards to them, and it started to become too much in my life, and I was asked to do chains of them through America and through Europe, etc., and Japan, Australia, and I refused, because I thought, if I do that, I've got to visit them. And if I'm visiting them, I'm going to be flying around the world all the time. I would never get time to do anything else. It'd be like being in the Stones. So I refused to take a chain, and I just closed the other two, and I've just stuck with the London one, which is very popular, and I mean, it's been visited by so many people. I mean, Princess Di and the Princes used to come all the time, and Dylan's been there, and Buddy Guy, and you name them, they've been there. So it's very nice to have it as a one-off. It's just another little deviation that's been successful.
Yeah, well, please know that if I'm ever in London, I plan on visiting Sticky Fingers myself, and I'll be ordering from your menu too, Bill.
Well, we got the best ribs in town, we got the best chicken wings, etc., etc.
I believe it.
And we've won the best burger for like 4 years, over the top of all those other huge restaurants like Hard Rock and, all those... the ones you've heard about.
What's your?
They don't like me for that,
They don't like you for that, huh?
No, we're a little restaurant and we win all the awards.
What's your favorite item on the menu?
The ribs.
Okay.
They're
all right.
Brilliant.
Well, I'm going to try to keep that in mind for my eventual visit to London. I want to give a plug to a couple of your other projects that you have that are you're as you've pointed out, you're a man with a lot on his plate. And one of the things that blew my mind was, writing is a huge part of your life. We've talked about the Blues Odyssey, and also there's something that fans should know about Rolling with the Stones.
Oh, the Stones book, yeah, it's amazing.
And what made you share so much from your archives with us?
The same as I do in my restaurant. I mean, my restaurant's got 500 artifacts on the wall from my collection, and I think it's better than sitting in my attic gathering dust and cobwebs to have them on a wall for people to look at, because fans are always emailing me and previously used to write to me and say, we hear you've got this big archive. When are you going to open a museum? When can we see these things? So now I'm able to do that. And with the Stones book, I was able to use 3,000 illustrations of everything from tickets to programs and posters, and just make it very, very illustrative, and just cover the whole career without the scandal, the gossips, the drugs, and all that kind of stuff, but just focus on the music and the performances and what we actually did.
What are the other members' impressions of Rolling with the Stones?
Oh, they loved it. Charlie said Bill should write all the books about the Stones.
What an endorsement.
He remembers everything, and he's got all the stuff.
That's great. Well, it's like it's sort of like a book of a museum. It's like you have your own personal museum of the Stones via your archives, and the book is sort of a book of the museum.
Well, it did absolutely fantastically, because a book that size, and that thickness and that weight, I mean, it's very heavy as well. It sold upwards of 400,000, and it was translated into 12 languages. Russian, Polish, German, Italian, Spanish, Dutch, Norwegian, it just went on and on.
Do you have copies in the other languages?
Yes, I do, but I don't read them.
No, but they must look cool, though, to see them with all those different languages.
Yeah.
They would look cool.
It's kind of nice to see that it's appreciated elsewhere as well.
Yeah, that it transcends, right, that it transcends cultures, really.
Yeah.
I hear from Len at Fuel Records, who says to say hi, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
That your next work is on another of your interests, which is, and we've sort of, in a way, talked about that, which is your treasure hunting and archaeology passion.
Yeah, that's another thing that interests me greatly, and I've been interested in that for some years. It's a book, it's coming out in 2 weeks in England, actually. I don't know whether it's that appealing to people who live abroad. They don't have the history, particularly in America, of what we have, but I can go into my back garden in my house, my house is dated from 1480. It's Tudor, it's pre-Henry VIII.
Wow.
It's got a moat round it, and
wow.
It's Tudor. And I can go into my garden and dig, and I will find little silver pennies from 1300 or bracelets, brooches, all kinds of bits and pieces, buckles from the 1200s. I can find pottery going back to the 10th century. So I can do my archaeology in my garden, and I found 2 Roman sites near my house. I found Iron Age, Stone Age, and things like that. I found Bronze Age axes, and you can find those things in England. Unfortunately, in America, you can't. You might find Stone Age stuff, like what do you call them? Arrowheads,
right?
Things like that, fossils. But that's about it, really, unless you're near somewhere where the local wars were.
Right, or you were in like New England.
You wouldn't find much, but in England, you just go into any field, you might find something Saxon or something from Roman times, 1800 years old that someone dropped. And my book's about 6,000 most important treasures that have been found in the ground over the last 500 years.
And what's the title of the book?
Bill Wyman's Treasure Islands.
Okay. That's another one people can look for.
Very, very illustrated. Amazing things.
I have no doubt, Bill. I am sure. I think that's outrageous, and especially that you live with a moat around your house. How deep is the moat?
How big?
How deep?
How deep? It goes down to about 7 feet, and it's about 30 foot wide in places.
And are there piranhas or crocodiles in it?
Neither. Well, in the old days, they just used to throw all their toiletries in there. So it was like it was a deathbed for anybody to go into. You know, you wouldn't survive getting out the other end.
I can imagine.
But of course now we keep it very fresh, and there's lots of fish in it and ducks and swans.
I'm sure it's awesome, dude. That's really cool. You've been doing a tribute to Elvis's Scotty Moore, which has been getting a ton of press.
Yeah, we did that about a month ago. With they asked if they could use my band as a house band to back everybody, including Scotty. We had Eric Clapton on, Dave Gilmour was on, Mark Knopfler, and a whole host of other stars. And we did all early Elvis songs from the Sun period.
You had Paul McCartney in there too, right?
No, Paul never turned up.
He didn't come.
He phoned about 2 in the morning and said he wasn't going to make it next morning, which was a bit of a shame because we were all there early for him, and he never made it, unfortunately. But the rest of them did a great job, and I do have to go to Paris in a week or two to have a look at those. I've ended up sort of musical director. I don't know why.
Of that session.
And they've asked me to okay the tapes and the sound and all that, so I've got to go over and do that. It's just another little job they've put me into doing. But I enjoy those things. They're all different, you know. I love the differences, the freshness of things.
And that's really what I think people who are listening are going to come to understand about you, and that's a lot of the attitude that's on the record, Just for a Thrill. I mean, I think you are really a diverse guy. And so who on that session though, Bill? Who was your closest friend who worked on that? Is Eric Clapton your closest friend, or which of those big stars are you closest to?
I don't see Eric so much now. He's got a family like I have. He lives quite near. We do. I mean, I've done a few charities with him in the recent 12 months. Did another charity with my band two more with my band backing him. So they were fun. But I used to see Eric a lot because we played charity sport for about 12 years together, and raised a lot of money, you know, for all kinds of children's charities, cancer relief, or sort of heart foundations, and. So we got very matey for many, many years. We've separated a bit now, you know, we have our own lives and our own children and things. But the funny thing is I've got 3 little girls and he's got 3 little girls.
Yeah.
He's following me up. He's younger than mine.
Well, you should keep in mind that when that release comes out, I would be delighted to do a phoner with any of those incredible musicians to plug that album, because I'm very impressed with hearing about it. It sounds like a wonderful thing. And
yeah, they're doing a DVD of it as well, and a CD. Yeah, it should be good.
How recently have you been in touch with the other members of the Stones? Like you said, you did something with Charlie 10 days ago.
Yeah, Monday week back. Yeah, I spoke to him this afternoon. Actually, we keep in touch all the time.
So you're real tight with him.
I just phoned him to say hi, you know, and oh yeah, because we bump into each other all the time, and. Woody, I spoke to Woody a short while ago. I see Woody sometimes. I haven't seen Mick for a while. He's been travelling a lot. I usually bump into him, you know, every few months at some function, either a charity thing or someone's dinner that we're socially friends with, you know. And we see Jerry a lot, actually, because my wife's good friends with Jerry, and our children play together quite a lot, Mick and Jerry's children and my children. And especially on holidays as well. Keith I don't see very much at all, although I spoke to him a couple of times when he was over here a few months ago, because he lives in the States and I live here. I don't travel and he doesn't travel much either. So I don't have much contact with Keith.
Yeah, he's a good buddy of mine, actually, is his manager's assistant in Connecticut. So I hear stuff from them, and I was just curious how I always have known, and I think one of the things that people respect about you so much is your departure from the Stones was done under the conditions that allow for you to really have the relationship you still do have with them.
Yeah, I mean, they were very sweet when I left, because they left the door open for a couple of years. They didn't believe that I'd left, and they kept thinking I'd just having a bad day or something, and I'd changed my mind. So they left the door open for a couple of years until they were touring again in '94, and then I verified that I had left, and then they replaced me, of course. So I kind of slid out of the band without any big sort of press announcement or headline thing. It kind of drifted, sort of disappeared in a way, which was quite nice in a way, I suppose.
It's very natural, and I read in your bio as we wrap this up, you don't fly anymore, so there's no chance of luring you out to Hawaii, huh?
Well, I used to love Hawaii. I used to go all the time. I used to go up into the land above and go horse trekking and all kinds of stuff.
On which island?
Me and Charlie went once when we were there for a week, and it was really nice.
Which island, Bill?
On Honolulu.
Oh, on Oahu.
Oahu, sorry.
It's cool. I'm just clarifying.
Yeah.
So here on Oahu, you and Charlie spent a week.
Yeah, well, the band were here and were there, and we went with time off. We went horse riding and everything. I mean, I used to love it there. I've flown 5 times since 1990, actually. That's 2 trips to America, and they were both for. I was obligated contractually because of my 2 books, Rolling with the Stones, and before that, Blues Odyssey. And when I went with Blues Odyssey, I brought my band over, and we did about 18 really small gigs all the way down from Canada to Memphis, which was kind of nice, but they weren't publicized very much. So although we did play to crowds of up to about 7,000, but we didn't have very good management over there. We didn't have very good promotion, so it kind of sort of went by without people really noticing it, which was a bit of a shame.
It is a shame. Well, know that if you were to decide you wanted to come back and visit us here in Hawaii, that I would be very interested in our station presenting a show with you guys, and we could definitely find the right venue, the right size, with the right promotion that we would get behind it. We're already behind the record and heavily promoting the record, and I think it would be a delightful thing to have Bill Wyman's Rhythm Kings here in Honolulu.
Well, they're a pretty hot band, I tell you.
Well, if I can, I don't know.
They're one of the rare bands that are just as great, if not greater, live than they are on record.
That's what I'm talking about.
There's no anticlimax there at all. I mean, we surprise people all the time, and that's the fun of it. But I like to keep it at that level. I don't like it to get much bigger. Otherwise, I'll be in the same situation as I was with the Stones.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Of touring again, and doing long tours around the world, and that's what I've been trying to avoid.
And that's what my thing is, like, you just come here. There's no need. Just skip North America. You just land in L.A. on the way here. You don't even have to get out of the plane, Bill. You just stretch a little bit in the aisle and then keep on keep on your way to Honolulu. And we do the gig here. We have beautiful women giving you lays when you get off of the airplane, and the weather will be perfect. And
always is, yeah.
We could even do it for charity. We could do it for any charity you wanted. I just want to see the thing, and then maybe one day, Bill, I know you're busy with so many projects, maybe you'll look up in the midst of all of it one day and say, I need to take the band to Honolulu.
And the family.
Yeah, and the family. You've got 3 daughters, right?
Yeah, little ones.
Yeah,
10, 9, and 6, yeah.
And what are their names?
Katie's 10, Jessica's 9, and Matilda's 6.
Katie, Jessica, and Matilda, I think they would love to come here with you and enjoy Dad in a beautiful tropical environment like this.
I'm sure they would. Well, for those people who haven't seen us, we do have a DVD out now of the Rhythm Kings called Let the Good Times Roll.
Yeah.
Which is selling really well. So that's for people who have never seen us, who want to see what we're like live.
And that's how I wanted to just finally, Bill, for fans to stay up on your activities, would you join me in recommending BillWyman.com as a good place to go?
Yeah, my son runs that. It's my website. My son runs it, and he does a good job there. And we've got lots of interesting things on it, and I put a daily diary in there and whatever I'm doing, so it keeps fans informed.
I greatly appreciate it, and I'm sure my listeners appreciate your insight and your time as well.
I'll send them all my best. It's been a pleasure.
You're the man.
Aloha, this is Bill Wyman, the Rolling Stones, and the Rhythm Kings. I've been talking to Dave Lawrence, lovely man. He's made me feel very much at home.